We talked about you as a lawyer, the court cases that you've, represented. Uh, how did you become a lawyer? And I mean, by the looks of it, 9 years you worked as a professional in a completely different field, and then you became a lawyer. Why?
So, I started playing, I mean, we know each other from the tennis court. So,
Right.
I started playing tennis at the age 10, and I had a very dear friend of mine with whom I used to play. So, I had nobody in my family, but his father was the Chief Justice of the Patna High Court.
Right.
So, it is only when I used to go to his home and see all the paraphernalia and see how the justice system works that I got motivated that I should become a lawyer. So, there was nobody in my family.
It's a brave step to take because, after 9 years, you say, yeah, I'm set in my way. I've got a profession. I've got a good job. I think you work with the Steel Authority of India. It's a government job. It's a BSU job. Why take the risk?
So, when I was in my first year of law, this advertisement came for management training in the Steel Authority of India Limited. And I didn't even apply for it. One of my friends said that at the age 20, normally you couldn't apply at 20 for any job then. You had to be 21, whether it be IAS or State Bank probationary officer. But this had only 20. So this friend of mine, he said, I've got two forms. Let's apply. So I just applied for the heck of it. Incidentally, that friend of mine, he didn't make it. He later on went to become an IAS officer, and I made it. So I was not keen to join even then. I went there. I didn't like the job. I came back and I started doing my classes. In fact, my father said that you applied for long leave, and so it's a long story. So I ultimately my job continued. They transferred me to Delhi because of a friend of mine. I was studying here, and so when I went into this job, as a 22, 23-year-old, when you start getting a handsome salary, then the Steel Authority was paying more than what the IAS was paying.
Right.
So it was, it was a lure in that sense. And you become very powerful. Steel was in short supply. Suddenly people are, around you. So I worked for 9 years. It's only when I got transferred to Assam, from there to Calcutta. And my father had then retired. He was living here in Delhi. He had built a small house in East Delhi. So I remember there was a small house in Calcutta, where I used to come from office. Both my sons were on the grill because there was no lawn outside, etc. So I realized that I'm doing injustice to them. And then I, of course, remembered that I had at some point thought of becoming a lawyer. Then I went to Tirupati and I got that inspiration. And then 6 months later, I ultimately resigned and started practicing.
What message do you have for young lawyers?
So, I say this often when I go to these universities, when I talk to these young children. Everybody feels that what is it which is important for you to become a good lawyer? And according to me, the most important thing for anybody to become a good lawyer is to feel the pain of the client.
So that empathy.
Yeah. So not empathy in that sense. You have to actually get into the shoes of the client. You have to actually understand what is he going through. Then give it a legal shape. Every pain doesn't have a solution. So the pain has to be given a legal shape, for which you require a lot of research. You see whether it is justiciable or not. If a wife is harassing the husband at home, probably it is not justiciable in many ways. It could be justiciable only if they ultimately decide to go for a divorce. But before that, it's not justiciable. You can't ask a court to intervene in somebody's household in that sense. So then you have to give it a justiciable. So that requires that intensive research and the domain expertise of that particular subject on which you are, working on. And lastly, if you are working in the Supreme Court, this domain expertise you have to have on a very subject of law. So that is why working in Supreme Court I find is the most difficult, because every time people ask me, should we come directly to Supreme Court? If you are ready to work on, a Transfer of Property Act today and become and take a PhD overnight, and tomorrow work on the CRPC and again take a PhD overnight, and you're ready to burn that kind of midnight oil, Supreme Court, you are most welcome. But if you don't want to do that, and if you're not ready to work that hard, then better to go from the lower court and start with a particular subject, learn that slowly, and then rise, in the profession gradually.
So that was, of course, for the lawyers. But as someone looking for a lawyer, an advocate, what should they look? How do I go and look for the right lawyer for a case that I may have?
So this is actually another very unique thing about our profession, that as a lawyer you can't advertise. So we are in fact not allowed to. Although now lawyers are having websites, etc., but you're not allowed to have a website. Also, you don't even have a right to have a board which is bigger than a particular size. So it's a profession which is only word of mouth profession. So I got most of my cases not because the cases that I won, but more because the cases I refused when I told the client that you don't have a case in the Supreme Court. And I said that, you'll be wasting your money. And somebody else told him to go to court, and he ultimately lost. And then he realized that at least he had given me an honest advice. So it's a word of mouth profession. You have to be sure that the person to whom you're going, and a proper genuine advice in our profession, or I would say even in the medical profession, is at a huge premium. In the sense that very few people are ready to give you a genuine advice considering and understanding your problem. So it has to be, you have to try and find out, by people's experiences, and you just can't get into somebody's office looking at the board and hiring a lawyer. That's the time when
one has to do one's own research, find out about the right person, maybe get an idea about how somebody else's court cases. So
a smart client will talk to a lawyer and realize how much he's in. How desperate is he to take my case, and whether he's ready to give me a genuine advice, even at the cost of whether he may have to refuse the case. So that, of course, that smartness is to be there, but a lot of people don't have that smartness. So you have to ultimately go by that word of mouth of whatever is being spoken about that lawyer in the legal circles, and then take a call.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this clip. As you know, we are taking a deep dive into some complex issues and decoding them for you. So don't forget to check out more content on our channel. And also, we'd love to hear back from you with your comments and your suggestions. So let's explore together.